Hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you today. Yep, looks like we may be going to war over this college football playoff format.
Don't push it. Don't push it. I'll give you a war you won't believe.
And a congressman has also threatened the SEC and Big Ten. Things are getting very heated. The Big 12 and the ACC, they're not real thrilled with what the SEC and Big Ten are doing. We got to get all into this. This story by Ross Dellinger says, with college sports in limbo, key issues coming to a head. Said it's going to get heated. Oh, yeah, definitely. Now, the SEC is meeting down in Florida, and they're going to be making decisions as far as what they're going to support. Now, everybody expects them to do the 4-4-2-2-1-3, which would be 4 automatic qualifiers for the SEC, 4 for the Big Ten, 2 ACC, 2 Big 12, 1 for the group of 6, and then 3 at large, one of which is obviously going to be Notre Dame as long as they finish in the top 16. But that's moving to a 16-team playoff. Well, there's a lot of negativity towards that from other conferences. The Big 12 and the ACC aren't thrilled with this 4-4 automatic deal. They want to move to something known as a 5+7, which would treat all the conference champions pretty much the same: SEC, Big 10, Big 12, ACC, and then highest rated, I guess, conference champion in the group of 6. And those 5 get in, and then 7 at large. Big 10 and SEC aren't going down that path, and they have all the power. So let's get into this. The former Texas president and now SMU leader, one school president, said the way the economic forces in college sports are going, it's going to exacerbate the gaps between the haves and the have-nots. That's definitely true. Says, I do worry about schools below a certain threshold, and I do worry about how they're going to keep up and keep competing. And Greg Sankey's taken a lot of heat. He actually came out and talked a little bit during the SEC meetings, and I'll let you hear what he had to say.
How do you balance what is best for the SEC with what is best for maybe giving up a little bit for the SEC would be better for the whole?
Look at a track record. We didn't need 12. Did we stayed at 4, we would have had half the 4 last year. I don't need lectures from others about good of the game. I don't lecture others about good of the game. Coordinating press releases about good of the game. Okay, you can issue your press statement, but I'm actually looking for ideas to move us forward. I thought the 12-team design was really well considered at the time. We never had a unanimous vote to support the 12-team playoff. And when I go back to the college football playoff, I'm open to ideas. There's just not a lot of incoming. My phone's not ringing off the hook with, hey, here's another way to look at it. And so we'll continue to be thoughtful. We'll continue to try to provide perspective and information to our members and help them guide the decision. And ultimately, I recognize I'm the one who ends up typically in front of the podium explaining not just myself, but ourselves. So.
Yeah, it sounds like Sankey's getting a little bit butthurt from all the criticizing, and it's only going to get more intense. I think they're going to go 4-4-2-2-1. I don't think there's much question about that, and that's going to tick off the Big 12 and the ACC in a major way. I think that's virtually guaranteed. The big question is, how do they set that up? They talked about a double bye that Tony Petitti's been pushing, which I think is the craziest thing I've ever heard of. All they need to do, and it's very simple, is take your top 16, top 8, get home field, bottom 8, play on the road, and then use the bowl games like they've done in the past, 8-4-2-1. That's simple. That's easy. You've got your automatic qualifiers for all the conferences, the Big 4, and then the one for the group of 6, etc. Pretty simple, and then you've got 3 at large. This nonsense of having double buys and all that we talked about yesterday is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. I just almost cannot believe how stupid it is.
Fire and brimstone coming down from the skies. Rivers and seas boiling. Dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria.
But I think Greg Sankey will come around because he's a pretty smart dude, and they'll end up doing something pretty simple like we just discussed. And the Big Ten's already come out in favor of the 4-4-2-2-1. They did that last week in Los Angeles. And again, realize the Big Ten, the SEC, they have 100% decision rights. In this, they do have to talk to the other conferences and take advisement, but they ultimately have the decision. And this is irritating some folks. If they do go down that road, one of the Big 12 athletic directors said, "I guess we go to war then."
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
And that has to do with this memorandum of understanding that the 11-member College Football Playoff Governing Board authorized, and it grants decision-making power to the SEC and Big Ten. And all they've got to do is listen to meaningful consultation and collect input from the other conferences. The other major problem that you'll hear from SEC and Big Ten would be playing games. If you go 5 and then plus 7 at large, you can't have play-in games. So the championship weekend we've been talking about, which I'll show you. And this type of thing would go on in the SEC, Big Ten, and also ACC and Big 12 on a smaller level. Instead of having your automatic buys, which would be 4, these would be your top 2, and they'd get a bye. That's their bye. And these 3 through 6 would play off to, as in play-in games, which would be fantastic entertainment for the fans. Instead, look, the Texas-Georgia game last year wasn't very exciting, and Carson Beck got hurt. So Georgia actually basically lost. They won the game, but they lost the game. The 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5 be way more exciting. Same for Big Ten. They'd get a lot more TV rights money because that's 2 games instead of 1, and they're both exciting. Well, you couldn't do that with the 5 plus 7. You can do that 4, 4, 2, 2, 1 deal. So that's another reason why, look, 5 plus 7 is not going to happen.
Stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not going to happen.
First of all, the SEC, Big Ten have all the power, and the 5 plus 7 doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. It might if everything were equal and we had true parity, but we don't. We're not even close to true parity. Comparing a group of 6 conference champion to the SEC or Big Ten or even the ACC or Big 12 is silly. Now, they do talk about the possibility of alienating a large swath of college football fan bases if they go 4-4-2-2-1, but I don't understand how that happens if you're guaranteed to have at least 2 teams out of the Power 4, plus a group of 6 who normally wouldn't make it, plus 3 more at large. Now, Pat Narduzzi, he's not happy. He said, "I think you should earn your – well, of course you need to earn your way into any playoff." He said, "It comes down to the image of the Big Ten and SEC. There's a lack of respect for the ACC. I don't like it." Look, Narduzzi, the only thing you care about is Pittsburgh. And that's okay. You're the head coach. That's all you should care about. But you just win the ACC or finish second. You're in. If you finish third, you might get in as an at-large. You probably would. So I don't want to hear it from Narduzzi. I'm still pissed at him for only allowing us, 350 tickets when we played them a couple of years ago. And we allowed them thousands of tickets at Neyland, which are worth having. Whereas up there, the only thing we got was like 350 in the bowl, and the rest we'd have to just find in the upper decks, and they don't even sell out. So I'm still ticked at him about that. You know I don't let things go. And one commissioner from the Big Sky said absolute power corrupts absolutely. He said there's going to be no checks and balances for them. There's going to be no limit to what the power can do if you give them any more. Yeah, so a lot of these conferences, it kind of is what it is. You're being included. You're not being excluded. So I don't know if there's that much for them to complain about, honestly, but they're going to. And I don't blame them. It's what you got to do. That's your conference. And speaking of the SEC and Big Ten having all the power, a congressman has warned both conferences in a quote, hell-bent on ruining college football. And this is a representative out of Pennsylvania, Brendan Boyle. He fired off a stern warning to the SEC and Big Ten, going as far as suggesting a federal hearing may be required. He said, "Let me state this as clearly as I can. The Big Ten and SEC should be very, very careful about some of the decisions they're about to make." He added, "Because they appear hell-bent on ruining major college football, I think they need congressional hearings into their collusion."
Somebody will listen to me.
Now, this congressman is an alum of Notre Dame and Harvard. So obviously, now here's the thing about Notre Dame, and I see that he wants Notre Dame as included as they can be. They're not a member of any conference, so I guess he would prefer it all to be at large. Look, as long as Notre Dame's in the top 16, they're going to get in the playoff. And the fact that they won't join a conference when any conference would take them like that. The Big Ten has been trying to get them for years and years and years, But as you know, Notre Dame is Notre Dame.
Ew! Get off of me! Ugh, as if.
Yeah. They're too good for anybody else. They don't want to join a conference. So what they get to do is they get to play in the ACC with that conference schedule. But then all they got to do is finish in the top 16 going forward, or top 12 currently, and they're in. So I don't know what they have to complain about. You get a fairly easy schedule, and then you get treated with special kid gloves. So what more do you want, Notre Dame? That didn't make any sense.
Don't care how, I want it now.
And I think the congressman, look, he's probably just barnstorming a little bit. Says, any attempt to stop the SEC and Big Ten from using their influence to redesign the playoff may prove futile before it's mounted because of the memorandum of understanding that everybody signed. So the congressman is probably grandstanding, and he's trying. Notre Dame doesn't need you to take care of them. They're taken care of, believe me. Matter of fact, they made it to the final game last year, so they're fine. Just finish in the top 16 in 2026, you're in. Or you don't like that? Big Ten will take you in a second. And then you'll have 4 automatic qualifiers or an at-large. But you'll have to play a Big Ten schedule. So things are getting very interesting. I do think they're going to finalize this at some point with the 4-4-2-2-1. They have to do it fairly early because there's so much planning involved to go to a 16-team playoff. And I think it's only a matter of time at this point, it feels like, but it's probably going to get a little ugly in here while these conferences. There's going to have to be some grandstanding, because if you're a commissioner of the ACC, Big 12, you've got to look like you put up a fight and really kind of rattle your sabers and all that kind of stuff. You just have to. And the other conferences have to do the same thing. It has to look like they at least tried. The big question, are they going to do this idiotic double bye deal? Surely they won't. Also, there's the big question of what's going to happen with the House versus NCAA and this loyalty pledge document that's going to all the conferences, and whether Tennessee and other schools will sign this. Because Tennessee's made it very clear, and so is their state legislature, they don't think this is legal. That House versus NCAA unilateral salary cap, they think that won't work, and it's only going to lead to a bunch of lawsuits as soon as Deloitte tells Spire Sports and all the other collectives out there, Ohio State's collective, Alabama's, when they try to bring in some big-time recruit and they get him an NIL deal, and Deloitte says, nope, you can't do that. Lawsuit, lawsuit, lawsuit. It's going to be wild. And Tennessee's just getting ahead of the game, and they're saying, we're not going to agree to get sued, and we're not going to sign your loyalty pledge. And the state law that they've got tells them they don't have to. So that's the big showdown that's coming, and we'll see if that pledge gets put in front of them, and they're not going to sign it. So then what happens?
Well, I didn't think you had it in you.
I'm your huckleberry.
Why, Johnny Ringo, you look like somebody just walked over your grave.
And here's the thing that I know. Danny White and Donde Plowman, and I've been telling you this for weeks, they think the only solution is collective bargaining, and they finally came out a couple of days ago and pretty much stated exactly that.
I'll say it. We got a camera on us. I don't really care at this point. Collective bargaining is the only issue. It's the only solution.
It's the only way we're going to get there.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
That's going to become a huge story over the coming days and weeks, whether or not that loyalty pledge gets pushed in their face. So it's the most active offseason I've ever seen in college football, ever. And it's going to affect everything moving forward. Wildest offseason ever. And if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's continue to cover all these big college sports stories. If you've not subscribed and you want to keep up with all this, because I'm going to be on it, hit this little button right here. Boom, boom, boom. Won't cost you a dime. Help you get my videos. And right over here is the most recent video, YouTube. Thanks, you'll enjoy. We'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.